Hi, hello, namaskara. Welcome back to Core Corner. In today's episode, we're going to be having a conversation which is absolutely crucial for the first-time parents and their kids. We have with us Dr. Naveen Kini, who has been running his clinic called Guru Kripa Clinic for over 3 decades and consulting in Lakshmi Maternity and Surgical Center. He also formerly worked in premium medical institutions like MS Ramaya Memorial Hospital, Columbia Asia, and Manipal Hospital in Malleshwaram. Let's welcome the pediatrician, Dr. Naveen Kini. Hi, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Core Corner. Core Corner is all about delving into a subject, may not be, elaborately, but then, discuss at least whatever basics that we are going to delve about in detail. So thanks for your time. Thanks for your patience for traveling all the way from that part of the town to this part of the town and being so accommodative and for agreeing to be a part of this Core Corner.
My pleasure, Rajani.
Thank you so much. So today we are going to be discussing about pediatrics and whatever elements that come along with it. So if you have to begin with, from birth till what age does a child fall under the purview of pediatrician per se?
Okay, if you go by the definition, pediatrics is from 0 to 18 years.
Okay.
But that said, a certain sect of my children don't want to be seen in a pediatric clinic after the age of 14 to 15, especially the adolescents. Nanen magu alla, nane chik makkal clinic karkombandi anta. The other extreme is I have my patients now who are in their late 20s or early 30s who come to me with their children but insist that I see them. So there's a big range of children or people and adults that I see, but by definition it is from 0 to 18 years.
I so will connect with this because, even we were used to taking our children to a certain pediatrician. Actually, it did happen to us, even beyond 18, we would, go consult him. And then finally, he had to one day say that, they no longer fall under my jurisdiction. So I think it's high time you take them to a different doctor and Athara. Yeah, so
I wouldn't say that. I would love to see them, especially the old patients of mine.
Yeah.
If I can't handle them, then I send them away.
Okay. So, Doctor, now, Ivaga, if we have to really discuss about the child's well-being from their birth till about 3 years, which is a very crucial age for both mom and also the child, for their well-being for short-term and also long-term. So, how do they take care of themselves and also the baby? Especially this is so crucial for first-time parenting.
That's a very good question. In my opinion, well-being of the mother and child should be decided even before conception. I would suggest that people have or decide to have a child only when they are mentally, physically and financially capable of having a child, so that they welcome this child in the right frame of mind. Once the mother is pregnant, I would suggest you go find a good gynecologist whom you're comfortable with and then go for regular checkups, which is something which some people neglect to do. Regular checkups to detect diabetes, blood pressure, etc. and a few scans to detect anomalies in the baby is extremely important. Also, take care of your health. Don't put on too much weight, because when you put on too much weight, you become prone for illnesses specific to pregnancy, like pregnancy-induced diabetes, hypertension. There's a condition called eclampsia, which predispose you to complications and also reduces the chances of you having a normal delivery. So what we recommend is about 1 kg per month or maybe 10 kgs during a pregnancy. During the end of the pregnancy, if possible, visit the hospital that you're going to deliver in. Because it's nice to be familiar with these circumstances. If possible, meet the pediatrician who's going to look after your child. One thing I would suggest is that you insist that the hospital practices what is called rooming in. Many hospitals have this practice of separating the mother and the child, especially if it's a cesarean section. This is something we pediatricians frown upon. We recommend that the child is given immediately to the mother, kept by the side of the mother. In fact, we now recommend what is called kangaroo mother care. The mother and child are immediately put in skin-to-skin contact and then wrapped. So that the baby is directly in contact with the mother. The mother helps the baby maintain temperature, and also the bonding is much better. The baby can easily reach the breast and start breastfeeding. So breastfeeding should be started as soon as the child is born or as early as possible, and that should be the only feed the babies receive, nothing else. From then on, successful, something which has been begun well is half the job done. So breastfeeding till 6 months exclusively is what we recommend.
So if we have to come back and ask you, how do you recommend the mother and the child take care of themselves in the first 3 years? Because that's what is crucial, is what is told, alva? So, ಆಗ what do you recommend? Because ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಬಣಂತನ ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಬಣಂತನ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷ್ನಲಿ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟೆಬಲ್ ದಟ್ ಒಂದು ಸಾಂಬ್ರಾಣಿ ಹೊಗೆ ಕೊಡೋದಾಗಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಜಾಕಾಯಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಉಜ್ಜಿ ಅದನ್ನ ತಿನ್ಸೋದಾಗಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಜೇನುತುಪ್ಪ ತಿನ್ಸೋದು, ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷ್ನಲಿ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್ ಫಾಲೋಡ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಸೊ ಮೆನಿ ಇಯರ್ಸ್. ಬಟ್ ಟುಡೇ ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ ಇಫ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ಡ್, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ midway I also know that things changed. A lot of doctors and pediatricians wouldn't probably recommend. So what is your recommendation ಈ postpartum ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಬಹುದಾ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದಾ? Because this is a confusion. Actually, they have parents who come from the previous generation, but they have given births to the child in this generation where I think, certain norms are contradictory to each other, are not acceptable by the doctor fraternity. So, ಅಂಥವರಿಗೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ?
Well, whether they are useful or not, I am not very sure. I haven't really studied about any of this. I have actually tried to look for evidence saying that they are useful. I have not found any. But I can only say that they are sometimes potentially harmful.
ಹೌದಾ?
For example, samrani hoge. Hoge is smoke. And smoke comes with its complement of allergens, sometimes even what we call carcinogens, the ones which cause cancer. So smoke is filled with harmful elements, and I cannot imagine samrani having something different. Similarly, baje, jakkai and all is something, some herbs which you mash in a mortar and pestle and then kayal tegdu nexodu. There are so many chances of contamination. Jentuppa is a very good culture media for bacteria. So if it has not been stored properly, bacteria grow very well in that. I think you left out katte halu. You should see the queue there is a queue in Dhobi Ghat every day in the morning to collect katte halu to feed newborns. Donkey milk. Katte halu is donkey milk. So that is something. So do I recommend it? Absolutely not. But is it being followed? Absolutely yes.
Alva?
Scientifically speaking, there is not much. I don't know about the benefits. I know about the potential harm that it can do.
ಓಕೆ. ಸೊ ಅದಾದ ತಕ್ಷಣನೇ ಮಗು ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟೇಜಿಗೆ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದಂಗೆ ಅದು ಬಾಟಲ್ ಫೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಹೌ ಮಚ್ ಡು ಯು ರೆಕಮೆಂಡ್ ಆರ್ ಎಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಏಜ್ do you recommend bottle feeding to be started from the breastfeeding?
If you ask me, bottle ಮನೆಯೊಳಗೆ ಬರಬಾರ್ದು.
ಹೌದಾ?
Because I agree that it is convenient. But it comes with its own set of problems. Number one,
ಇವಾಗ ಬಾಟಲ್ ಫೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೂ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಸೋ ಮೆನಿ ಟೈಮ್ಸ್ ವೆನ್ ದ ಮದರ್ probably after 6 months or even 4.5 months of their maternity leave have to resume work. So aga they kind of express the milk and then refrigerate it and then give it to the baby, or I think it needs to be refrigerated, alva, if at all it needs to be expressed and then given at a later time. So aga henge madodu adana? I mean
that's a very good question. We have, babies love to suck. It doesn't matter how you give it. There are different methods in which a baby will suck, and baby knows right now only one method of sucking, that is at the breast. So if you have to give something, you have to give something completely different from that method. Bottle is similar to breastfeeding and 10 times easier. So no prizes for guessing what the baby is going to choose. Baby is going to say, bye bye mummy, thank you very much, I want the bottle. Because it causes what is called nipple confusion. So and also the bottle is the commonest cause for gastroenteritis, teeth, dental caries, ear infections, in addition to this failure of lactation. So bottle, absolutely not. But yes, like you said, if mothers need to go to work and they express their milk and keep, the same thing can be given by palada. Palada andre namma shanku.
ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು.
Shanku. Or even the soup spoons. The big spoons which they give for us to drink soup. See, babies basically need gulps, not sips. Chick spoon al kotre kopa barate avarge. So you give it in big spoon. You just have to wrap the baby nicely, hold the baby at a 45-degree angle and bring the spoon to the mouth. It is as easy as bottle feeding, believe me.
I was thinking it was ulta anta. ಸಣ್ಣ ಸ್ಪೂನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು.
ಸಣ್ಣ ಸ್ಪೂನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ಕೋಪ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ. Because they need gulps. They're so used to gulping from the breast that you give it in a small spoon and then they start refusing and then the mother's in trouble. You give the bottle, of course, baby will take it very happily. They actually overfeed. They take a lot of air, they become very gassy, etc. But at the same time, they won't go back to the breast. So the commonest complaint I hear from mothers is, "Nalke tingal halittu, amele hale illa." Why? Because you started the bottle. So if anybody has brought the bottle into the house, put it under the next bus that goes near your house. Pudi abeku, kodavardadu. If you have to feed, give it by spoon or palada. But mind you, all of them have to be sterilized.
Sterilized, yes.
Boiled for 10 minutes, not just washed in hot water. Otherwise, loose motion agutte.
So from bottle feeding, when the child has to start off with the food, solid foods, actually, when do you recommend that the baby can start off being weaned with this liquid diet and then start off with the solid food?
Generally, after the age of 6 months, that is the completion of 6 months from the 7th month onwards.
Side by side, ಇದನ್ನು ಆಗ್ತಿರತ್ತಲ್ವಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ
exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months. If the mother is going to work after 4 months, express the milk and give. And the same thing can be given by spoon. No solid feeds till 6 months is what the World Health Organization recommends for now. So that is what I also recommend. Most people follow, a few don't, but most of them follow that.
So what are the good food habits that you would recommend, doctor, for a healthy life of a child?
I think it should start with the process of weaning itself. See, now the commonest problem I hear in my clinic is the child does not eat.
ಹೌದು, ಇದು ಒಂದು ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇದೆ.
And I see mothers running around behind the child, spending almost 4 hours every day trying to make a child eat. And that causes a lot of stress, both for the mother, for the grandparents, for the father who comes back home tired and then the child is given to him, neen tinsavnge, etc. I think in the whole animal kingdom, the human beings are the only species which has a problem with children eating. That's probably because we go against nature. In every other species, it is hunger which drives feeding. Namdu, it is the ulta. ಅಯ್ಯೋ 4 ಗಂಟೆ ಏನು ತಿಂದಿಲ್ಲ, ತಿನ್ಸು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. ಓ ಮಗು ಅಷ್ಟು ಸಣ್ಣ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ತಿನ್ಸು ಅವನಿಗೆ. ಎನಿಬಡಿ ಮೇಕ್ಸ್ ಒನ್ ಕಮೆಂಟ್, ದ ಮದರ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ಡ್ ಔಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ದ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಆಫ್ ಫೀಡಿಂಗ್ ದ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್, ವಿಚ್ ಶುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಬಿ ಡನ್. ಸೊ there are a few rules I tell my patients about how to do, and I tell them in a lighter vein. You follow this, you will have shanti in the house. Illa andre maneyalli vanti irtade. So the first and the most important rule is that the child is the boss. The child will eat as much as its tummy wants, not as much as its mummy wants. And he will decide what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat. The mother's job is to provide and decide where the child is eating. That is all. So you follow this basic rule, half the problems will be solved. Rule number 2, no distractions during eating. That means no TV, no computer, no mobile. ಆಚೆಗಡೆ ಓಡಾಡಿಸಿ ಕಾರು ಬಸ್ಸು ಏರೋಪ್ಲೇನ್ ತೋರಿಸಿ ತಿನ್ಸೋದು absolutely not. Eating will be in the sitting position. ಕಾಲ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಹಾಕಿ ತುರುಕ್ಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. It can vomit, it can go into the lungs and ears, it can cause a lot of problems. So eating will be in sitting position at a particular place in the house only. Preferably a high chair and ಬರ್ತದೆ. High chair ಮೇಲೆ ಸೀಟ್ ಬೆಲ್ಟ್ ಇರೋದೇ ಬರ್ತದೆ. So that the child can't run away. ಸೀಟ್ ಬೆಲ್ಟ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅಲ್ಲೇ ತಿನ್ಸ್ಬೇಕು. So that the child associates that place with eating.
Oh.
Children form associations. At 6 months, the child is completely naive. Doesn't know anything. ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. Whatever you teach, it will learn. Correct. You teach it good habits, it will learn good habits. You teach it bad habits, it will continue with the bad habits. So eating in the high chair without electronic media is a must. And meal timings only. Rule number 4. Breakfast, lunch, evening snack, dinner. If required, one meal in between. But according to the child's wishes. ಬೇಕಂತ ಕೇಳಬೇಕು. ಬೇಡ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು 3 ಗಂಟೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿಸಬಾರ್ದು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. So that the child gets adequate time to get hungry. No forcing at any cost. Rule number 5, variety. The more colors, the more flavors, the more textures the child gets, the child will be more interested. Preferably involve the child in the whole preparation of the meal. Starting from preparing, let the child see the vegetables, the ingredients, let it, if required, feel a little. Make the child involved so that it's a full sensory experience for the child, so that the child looks forward. See, the common complaint I hear is ಮೊದಲೆಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಲೇಟ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಕುಣಿತಾ ಇತ್ತು, ಈಗ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ ಅಂತದೆ. Why? Because child is not enjoying the meal. So make sure that every time you take the plate, the child starts jumping. That means you're doing it right. And the last rule is probably make the child eat on its own as soon as possible, because that is very important developmental milestone called as hand-mouth coordination. Taking rice with a spoon and putting it in the mouth without spilling is a skill. And that skill is very important for future, say, handwriting, drawing, etc. So by feeding the child for longer than required, you are actually doing the child a disservice. So make the child...
ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಯಾವ ಏಜ್ ತನಕ ಅದನ್ನ ತಿನ್ನಿಸಬೇಕು?
By about 8 months to 9 months.
Just allow the child to do things on its own?
Yes. Start what is called finger food. Chick vegetables boil mabitallidi. Slowly it will eat. Slowly introduce a spoon. Initially you'll make a mess.
That's okay.
But slowly the baby will realize, unless this food in my plate goes into my mouth, my hunger is not reduced, and gottagid takshna, it will make an active effort to put the food in the mouth. And by 1 year, 3 months, max 1.5 years, a child should be independent, which unfortunately is not followed in most places. I see mothers running behind, grandmothers running behind, spending hours together, but it's an absolute waste of your time. You can actually spend that more creatively, making the child learn something, showing it books, playing games with the child, playing some music, taking the child out to the park, etc. Don't waste your time trying to make a child eat. All the mothers who are watching this program, please follow this.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್, ಎಷ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು ಗೊತ್ತಾ ಕೇಳೋಕ್ಕೆ. ಐ ಕುಡ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ವಿಜುವಲೈಸ್ ಸಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಬೇಬೀಸ್ ದಟ್ ಐ ನೋ ಆಫ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ರೀಸೆಂಟ್ಲಿ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಆಟ ಸಾಮಾನು, ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ದೇ ಲವ್ ಟು ಪ್ಲೇ ವಿತ್ ದೀಸ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಿಚನ್ ಟಾಯ್ಸ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಒನ್ ವೇ ಆಫ್ ಅಲವಿಂಗ್ ದೆಮ್ ಟು enjoy that process of playing with the kitchen items, and then discuss about it, so that they get really interested voluntarily to eat also.
Yes, true. They can play with the vegetables. Let them see the colors, let them see the texture, but during meals no distraction.
Yeah. ಕೇಳಕ್ಕೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು ಗೊತ್ತಾ. ಅದನ್ನು ಅಡುಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ರೆ, ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಸೋ ನೈಸ್ ಟು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ವಿಜುವಲೈಸ್ that part of that activity. So doctor, what constitutes healthy diet?
If I can put it simply, anything that grows on a plant is healthy. Anything that is made in a plant or factory is not. Unfortunately,
can you elaborate? I didn't actually get that.
Made in a plant or factory.
Plant, okay.
Made in a plant is not. And unfortunately, children are eating more of the latter than the former. So,
wow, what a line actually.
Because if a child has to get its complement of nutrients, there is no need to look for anything other than basic vegetarian food. So now what I do is recommend that at least for the first 2 years of life, let the child be mostly vegetarian. And again, in vegetarian, I can stress that our Indian vegetarian diet is quite unhealthy, because many of the things we eat are not exactly healthy. All the fried items, the sweets, the murukku, chakli, and all that is vegetarian junk. So what children should eat is mainly whole grains. So anything that is not tampered with. So white rice, unfortunately, is rice with nutrition removed. So preferably brown rice, or at least the boiled rice, wherein the nutrition goes into the whole wheat rather than maida. Most of the biscuits, bread, etc. is made of maida. So maida is wheat with nutrition removed. Eat ragi, corn, millets, pulses, dals, legumes, sprouts, in any combination, so that child gets a balanced diet. And if there's one thing I have to stress, it is fruits and vegetables. Because fruits and vegetables are important sources of what we call fiber. And if I have to name one thing which is the most important other than proteins, carbohydrates and fats, it is fiber. Why? Because fiber is what the good bacteria inside you eat. Nimnella admele it goes down, the fiber is not digested in our body, so it goes down into the colon, and that's where the good bacteria reside. And now it's more and more recognized that the good bacteria inside you is considered the second brain, because they produce so many neurotransmitters, the feel good hormones, feel good transmitters like dopamine and serotonin. 90% is produced in the gut. They produce what are called short chain fatty acids, which help to prevent diabetes. They help in maintaining the gut integrity, etc., which are produced by the bacteria inside. So these bacteria need fiber, and fiber rich food is only what I mentioned all this time. The food that is zero in fiber, non-vegetarian food, zero in fiber.
Howda?
The whole non-vegetarian food has no fiber. Milk and milk products, milk, cheese, butter, ghee, paneer, zero fiber. Sugar, zero fiber. Oil is a nut with nutrition removed, zero fiber. Salt, zero fiber. Unfortunately, children are eating mostly this. And salt, sugar and oil are three of the most addictive substances. And food is now being engineered in such a way that they contain all three of them. Nowhere in nature are all three of them available together. But food is being engineered to contain all of them so that they consume more and more. Health drinks. There's so much sugar. And to mask the sugar, it's been now called high fructose corn syrup and maltodextrin, etc. But it's all sugar. And so health drinks are actually healthy for the bank balance of the company, not the health of your child. So if you want a child to drink something healthy, make a smoothie. Smoothies, you can add a banana, dates and oats and all that, mix it in it becomes as good as a milkshake. So give the child a smoothie. So healthy food begins during the time of weaning. Like I said, child is naive, it doesn't know anything. So you develop tastes based on what is offered. So the first 2 years, try and avoid anything which is processed, anything which is made in the plant. Non-vegetarian to the minimum, if at all you are a non-vegetarian family. Milk and milk products, I would not recommend. We recommend breastfeeding till 2 years. Cow's milk is good for the calf, not your baby. And all milk products are made from cow's milk. So, of course, there's going to be a question about ghee and this and all, but it's not really required because it's all said and done. It has, of course, a few benefits, but all said and done, at the end of the day, it's saturated fat. So we don't need that much of saturated fat. We rather have the healthy fats. Ghee also contains a little bit of healthy fats, what we call polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fatty acids. But you can get much better sources, chia seeds, hemp seeds, nuts. They're all very rich in, mono and polyunsaturated and omega-3 fatty acids. So, in the vegetarian kingdom, why do you want to load your child? See, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ತಿಂದ್ರೆ there's no problem. But children are eating 3 times a day and large quantities of all these high calorie, unhealthy stuff. So this is something which as pediatricians we are trying to change. And you have to start early. This is so eat healthy. The whole family eats healthy, even better. ಮನೆಗೆ ತಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಮಗುಗೆ ತಿನ್ಬೇಡ ಅಂದರೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. So don't bring that junk into the house. So once in a while when you go outside, okay, indulge. But do not bring it into the house. In the house, there should be limited choices available so that either the child eats or goes hungry. Nothing is going to happen by saying no to the child. They will try all emotional blackmail. Oh, you can't prepare this for me. But then it's not good for the child. So don't bring any of those into the house.
So coming to this sleep thing, traditionally, ನಮ್ಮ Indian families allantuno, we have this habit of making the child sleep next to us, probably till they go to the school or even beyond that. But in the Western culture, they make them sleep separately in a different room. What do you recommend? I mean, what is the right way and what is the ideal way to go about this?
Both methods have their benefits. Sleeping with the child, it's called co-sleeping, has got its own benefits in the child. The child and mother bond together better. Child's temperature is maintained well. It's easier to breastfeed, etc. But then, beyond a certain point, it has its own, repercussions. I see mothers, even when the baby is 2.5, getting up 4, 5, 6 times in the night, feeding the baby. Baby doesn't sleep well. The mother doesn't sleep well. The father also doesn't sleep well because of that. So they're all completely stressed out because of lack of sleep. And the Western world handles it a different way. Like you said, they put the child in a separate room and allow the child to cry itself to sleep. That's called the Ferber method, if you have heard of it. What we would suggest is something in between. We would, at least I suggest them to have a crib and put the child in the crib from as early as possible, preferably after the age of 6 months. Stop using breastfeeding to put the child to sleep, because babies, like I said, they form association. So if you associate the breast with sleep, every time she gets up, he or she will want the breast. So feed the baby beforehand, pat the baby to sleep, so that it associates patting with sleep. So every time it gets up, the mother need not go. Even the father can go and pat the child back to sleep.
But ansattu, I think the child is breastfeeding even as long as 1 year alva. So ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಹೇಳತ್ತಲ್ವಾ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹಸಿವೆ ಆಯಿತು ಅಂತ ಎದ್ದಾಗ
mother will go there and feed.
Okay.
We are not denying the child breastfeeding at all. We recommend breastfeeding till the age of 2.
Yes.
But slowly the baby will know that the breast is only for drinking, not for getting pacified. Most babies use the breast for getting pacified, and that every time they feel stressed, they'll want the breast. Babies are supposed to learn to what is called self-soothe. Self-soothing is a very important way of handling stress in future. And one of the best ways to teach the baby self-soothing is to make it sleep separately. And what we recommend, at least I recommend, is keep the baby in the room, but keep it in a crib, not next to you. And don't pick the baby the moment it cries. Because they should learn slowly, okay, mama, papa are here, but I need to handle my stress. So slowly they will learn to self-soothe, and the goal should be by about 1 year, 3 months, maximum 1.5 years, hog malko andre, he should go to bed, sleep, sing himself to sleep. And that is recommended by all sleep specialists also today, because we are finding that more and more children are not sleeping properly due to a variety of reasons, including screens and this thing. So get them used to sleeping on their own as early as possible, so that they sleep through the night. 1 year, 3 months, maximum 1.5 years ಒಳಗೆ ರಾತ್ರಿ ಮಲ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಎದ್ದೇಳಬೇಕು. So that is thing. Again, difficult, but it can be done, provided you start early. Like I said, at 6 months, baby is naive. It doesn't know anything. You need to teach it the good habits.
Super. So, if we have to talk about the vaccinations, to the babies. I think, the first 2 years or 2.5 to 3 years, they have a list of vaccines,
course.
that they need to, take. ಎಲ್ಲಾನು essentially to be taken. I mean, ಅದರದ್ದು ಸೈಡ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಏನಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಿ ಅವಾಯ್ಡೆಡ್? I don't know. I mean, it's such a probably not a relevant question to be asking a doctor, because you would definitely recommend all the vaccines.
No. It is a very, very relevant question. I'm sure most of the mothers in your audience will have the same question. In fact, there is a particular category of influencers called anti-vaxxers who believe that vaccination should never be given and body should develop immunity on its own and all that. So that's a different argument altogether. But coming to your question, do they work? Absolutely. I don't think we need more evidence than the disease polio. When I was studying, we used to see plenty of cases of children coming with polio, and you get polio, you're crippled for life, and child can even die of the disease. And we started the pulse polio program, and there have been instances when children have received it even monthly, the polio drops. But I never dreamt that I would see our country free of polio when I was studying. But
Super.
from 2011, we have not had a single case of polio in our country. And that is now recognized as one of the greatest healthcare achievements in the world ever.
Correct, yeah.
Because considering the size of our country.
Correct.
And some teachers have, gone by boat, crossed a river, walked 10 miles and gone and given the drops to babies and done it every month. So hats off to the teachers in the rural areas. They've done a good job. So vaccines work. Whether all of them are required, I think it's an individual choice. But my take is that I wouldn't let a baby suffer from a vaccine preventable disease, because these vaccines are by and large safe. I wouldn't say they won't have side effects, because there's no medicine without side effect. But thankfully the side effects are rare, and the benefits outweigh the risks. So, for example, chickenpox. Chickenpox is not a very severe illness, but exam time al banbitre 1 varsha aitu. They will not let you sit for the exam. Chickenpox can get reactivated later on in life and cause what is called herpes zoster. And herpes zoster is a very painful condition which can cause a lot of disfigurement if it comes on the face, etc. So, it's not that the vaccine will completely prevent the illness, but it will reduce the severity. And that is what we want, like in COVID.
Correct.
So, COVID vaccine is another thing which I don't even want to go anywhere close to. But yes,
No.
by and large, vaccines work. So, my advice to patients would be,
Go ahead.
if you can afford it, go ahead. Because quite a few of them are very expensive. So, if you can afford it, go ahead. But the basic vaccines, please do not miss. When I started my practice, we used to have so many illnesses like diphtheria. We used to have Hib meningitis. We used to have pneumococcal pneumonia and all that. Now I very rarely see these illnesses because of vaccination. So I am convinced they are effective. If my children, when they were small, these vaccines were available, I would have given them, but they weren't. But now, any parent with a newborn child, give all the vaccines is my recommendation.
But this is one valuable information that I think we can give out to the audience is, should just
to put it in perspective, Bill Gates and certain other billionaires have been putting billions of their dollars of their money into vaccinations for the African countries and also India. It's called they've not put their name, it's called Gavi. Gavi is an organization which supplies vaccines to them. And they've been doing it for decades now, more than 2 decades. They come right down to the grassroots level and see the implementation. And they're convinced and they've seen the results, and that's why they're putting money into vaccinations. And vaccination has been described as one of the biggest and the best investments you can make in the health of your child by many people. So, I would suggest
Thank you. So, doctor, if we have to talk about the milestones of the child in the first 2 years, what are the milestones that one should watch out for?
Let me begin by saying that watching milestones is the job of the pediatrician, not yours.
Howda?
Your job is to enjoy your baby growing up. Otherwise, 5 years from down the line, you will remember only the worries, not the good
ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ
things.
ನಾವು ಅದು ಒಂದು ಬೋರ್ಡ್ಲು ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಟೈಮ್ ಲಿಮಿಟೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಸೊ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಆಸ್ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಬಿ ಈಕ್ವಲಿ ವರಿಡ್.
Yeah. That said, see, people generally tend to stress on what are called the motor milestones. Borl ಹಾಕೋದು, ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು, ನಡೆಯೋದು and all. So the milestones can be what is called gross motor, the ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು, ಟರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಎಕ್ಸೆಟ್ರಾ. ಫೈನ್ ಮೋಟಾರ್, ಪಿಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಪ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್, ಫೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್, ಎಕ್ಸೆಟ್ರಾ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಮೈಲ್ಸ್ಟೋನ್ಸ್, ಮಾತಾಡೋದು. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅಡ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಿವ್. ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಇಸ್ ಹೌ ದ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್ ಬಿಹೇವ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಎ ರೇಂಜ್. Walking at 10 months is normal, walking at 2 years also is normal. So gross motor milestones I wouldn't really be bothered, except maybe if things like head control. A child is expected to have head control. ನೀವು ಕೈ ಹಿಡಿದು ಎಳೆದ್ರೆ the head should follow. If the head goes back, that is lack of head control. So if by 5 months the child does not retain head control, that's a cause for concern. Similarly, if the child does not sit with a straight back by 9 months, 9 to 10 months, that again needs further evaluation. What is more important probably is what we call the social milestones. Child not smiling by 2.5 to 3 months can be a problem with vision. More importantly, a child who is not speaking a single word by 15 to 16 months. A child who doesn't look at you, eye contact illa andre. If the child does not point and ask, if pointing is not there. These are all warning signs of a condition like what we call autism. So these children need to be evaluated further. But other than that, Google mabitu, my child is 4 months, he is not sitting, what should I do? Avella bekagilla. That is the job of the pediatrician. When you go for your vaccinations, he is going to check it anyway. So enjoy your child growing up is the advice that I would give.
And also, doctor, you might have had experiences with so many parents. You know, you've spent almost 3 decades now in this field or even more. So you might have, had, what do you say, the privilege to see variety of parents. ಅಂಥ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೇರೆಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಏನೇನು ಥರ ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು ನೀವು. ಆ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೇರೆಂಟಿಂಗಿಗೆ ವಾಟ್ ಟಿಪ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಡು ಯು ಸಜೆಸ್ಟ್?
It's a very, very good question. I think anybody who has been a parent knows how wonderful and at the same time how taxing it can be.
Yeah.
There are unfortunately no fixed formulas for parenting. Correct. And nothing can be said as the hard and fast Correct. Rule. Coming to the types of parenting, they have been classified as many ಒಂದು authoritarian ಅಂತಿದೆ. That is my way or the highway. ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ದಂಗೆ ಮಾಡು, ಬೇರೆ ಏನು, no option is given to the child. The authoritative, wherein it's a dialogue. You set some rules, but within those rules you give them enough freedom so that they are free, they feel free to ask questions, and they are this has been considered as the best way of parenting. This, like you said, the permissive. Sab chalta hai. Kelidella sigutte maguge. The parent doesn't want to disappoint the child at all. So it's extremely permissive. So these children don't value whatever, anything they have. There's one what is called the helicopter parenting. This is the overindulgent parenting. So ella ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. The childಗೆ ಸ್ಕೂಲಿಗೆ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗೋದು, ಬ್ಯಾಗ್ ಎತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗೋದು, they want to make sure what homework the child has done, how the class was, they go talk to the teachers. That kind of hovering around the child gives the child very less freedom to be decisive. Every decision is done by the parents. That's called helicopter parenting. And then the worst kind is called the neglectful. Neglectful parenting is they provide the child with food and basic necessities, but other than that they are not involved in the child at all. So whatever the child is doing the child is doing it on its own. There is no help in anything. So that there are these different kinds of parenting. each one has, each family has tried out one method or the other. And I would, if I had to give tips over the years, a few things I have followed, or probably I wish I would have followed on my children. One of the things is that respect the child's individuality. Each child is different. You don't need to compare the child with somebody and say, ನೀನು ಅವನು ನೋಡು, ಅವನು ಎಷ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ನೀನು ಯಾಕೆ ಹಿಂಗಿದ್ಯಾ. Respect his individuality, accept his shortcomings and encourage his whatever good things he has, so that he doesn't feel, inferior to anyone. That is one thing which all parents should do.
I think even the child feels that sense of accomplishment when it does something on its own, and it's given that freedom and scope to venture into something, and then it achieves. And I think that also gives them one step forward confidence.
Just a small word from the parent, shabash, I'm so proud of you, that will make the child go to cloud 9.
Yeah.
Whereas a comment like, you are useless, nayalayak, or ಅವನು ನೋಡು ಎಷ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ನಿಂಗೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಈ ಥರ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. And also we should never as parents compare our child with anyone. That is the first rule. The second thing would be, do not burden them with expectations. Just because father and grandfather are mathematicians doesn't mean the child has to be good in maths. Just because father is an IPS officer doesn't mean the child has to take up with it. That is one common thing which I see.
It is a disease, if you ask me.
Children are burdened with expectations from the young age, so that they are not allowed to, their natural talents don't flourish. So they feel stifled, and they sometimes rebel, but most of the time they don't do very well because their natural talents have not been encouraged. So do not burden them with expectations. Respect the child's feelings. It's okay to be shy, it's okay to be scared, it's okay to be angry once in a while. ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಮಾಡಬೇಡ ಅಂದರೆ then what does the child? The child is also having a brain of its own. It can have its own feelings. Correct. And do not put down a child, especially in public, because the child has only you who can give the child unconditional love. And if the parent doesn't give unconditional love, where will the child look for? Correct. So do not put down the child at any cost. Even if you are scolding the child, scold the act, not the child. Make sure the child understands the difference. Neen id madidya, I am punishing the act, but I still love you. Correct. Once the child gets that confidence, he is always on your side. But as parents, even though we feel it, we do not communicate. That is the other thing I wanted to say. Develop a channel of communication. That's always.
Absolutely essential, yes.
Because most of the time I see father doesn't talk to son, mother and daughter are always fighting because they are not communicating. And one of the best ways to communicate is to start eating a meal together. That is one thing I wanted to talk about. I forgot while talking about meals. There are certain rules. During meal time, at least one meal a day, make sure that everybody in the family eats together. You'll be surprised how much you will learn about your child right from the kindergarten age. Because children want to talk and communicate, and if we are not eating together, they don't have nobody to think. Then they go and sit in front of a gadget.
Correct.
So make sure communication channels are kept open always. Yes. Because once the child becomes bigger, suppose there's a major problem, there's bullying, there's some kind of ragging or whatever, somebody is beating the child, etc. She feels free to come and communicate that with you.
It's so important.
Very, very important.
It's so important. Otherwise, they might end up, actually getting into bigger troubles.
Yes, because parents not there, then they go to the friends.
They go to the friends and they might get a wrong advice, or even they might not confide in you, and then it keeps, accumulating in their heart. And yavaglo onesati every bottle has to open up filled with emotions someday. So it can have that kind of a negative impact also. It's true. So important.
And the last thing I would say is, set good examples. Children may not be listening to you, but they are watching you carefully. You can't say, do as I say and not, you do something else. ನೀವು ಟಿವಿ ಮುಂದೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಊಟ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅವನಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಡೈನಿಂಗ್ ಟೇಬಲಲ್ಲಿ ಊಟ ಮಾಡು ಅಂದರೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ನೀವು ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಮೊಬೈಲಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅವನಿಗೆ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಯಾಕೆ ನೋಡ್ತೀಯ ಅಂತ ಬೈದ್ರೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. So we've always seen parents who are active, who are exercising, those children tend to be always outdoors.
Yeah.
Whereas parents who sit and eat junk, etc., their makkal also will be of the same kind. So set good examples for your child so that they also follow in the same path.
I was going to ask you that question. How important is playing outdoors for a child?
I really can't stress the importance.
No,
It's
because ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಎಸ್ ಮೈ ಸನ್ ಸೇಸ್ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಜನ್ರೇಷನ್ ಥರ ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಡ ಅಂತ ನೋ ಬಟ್ ಡೆಫಿನೆಟ್ಲಿ ಆ್ಯಸ್ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್ ವಿ ವರ್ ಲೆಟ್ ಔಟ್ ಆನ್ ದ ರೋಡ್ ಟು ಪ್ಲೇ ಫಾರ್ 1 or 2 hours. ಡೆಫಿನೆಟ್ಲಿ ಸಂಜೆ ಆಯಿತು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಆಟದ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಂತಲೇ ಇತ್ತು. ದೇರ್ ವಾಸ್ ಅ ಟೈಮ್ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಟು ಪ್ಲೇ ಔಟ್ಡೋರ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಅನ್ ಇಂಟೆಗ್ರಲ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಅವರ್ ಗ್ರೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಅಪ್ ಇಯರ್ಸ್. ಎವ್ರಿ ಡೇ ಅದು ಆಟಾಡಲೇಬೇಕು. ಈಗ ವಿ ಡು ಹಾರ್ಡ್ಲಿ ಸಿ ಎನಿ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್ ಪ್ಲೇಯಿಂಗ್ ಚೈನ್ ಕಟ್ ಆಗಲಿ, ಲಗೋರಿ ಆಗಲಿ, ಕ್ರಿಕೆಟ್ ಆಗಲಿ, ಬ್ಯಾಡ್ಮಿಂಟನ್ ಆಗಲಿ. ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಪಾಪ ಅವ್ರಗಳಿಗೆ ರೋಡ್ಗಳು ಆ ಥರ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಪಾರ್ಕ್ ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಬಟ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಫಾರ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಎ ವಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಪಾತ್. ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ರೆಕಮೆಂಡ್ ಆರ್ ಟಾಕ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದ play activities per se, how important is it for a child in their growing up years?
ವೆರಿ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಸ್ಯಾಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಈಗ ಹಾಲಿಡೇಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಆಚೆ ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ. ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಕೋತಿಗಳ ತರ ಆಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ, ಬರೀ ಊಟಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬರೋದು, ದೆನ್ ಗೋ ಔಟ್ 8-10 hours we used to be out of the house. These kids don't go outside even in holidays, and that's extremely detrimental. And the other thing I see is 10th standard ಬಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ all activities cut. A child who's been actively swimming, playing badminton, crucial year bantu, all activities cut. Child goes to tuition, does extra classes, etc., which actually is not beneficial for the following reasons. Number one, exercise provides the child with vitamin D, exposure to sunlight, and vitamin D is now known to be important for so many things, not just bone and muscle health. It's also important for heart health, for prevention of cancer, for immunity, etc. So vitamin D deficiency is on the rise because kids don't go out. The second thing is development of muscles and bones. The push and pull on the by the muscles on the bones strengthens them much better than any health drink that children can take. Number 3, it has been shown that it increases the synapses in the brain. And it increases what is called cognitive function. Cognitive function is the ability to learn, an ability to understand, etc. So it's all the more important for children who are appearing for exams to exercise. Number 4, sleep. When you are tired, you sleep better. And the quality of sleep, the quality of what we call REM sleep, and the cycles of sleep are better in children. And it is now universally recognized that sleep leads to what is called consolidation of memory. In the sense, it goes from your RAM to your hard drive. So if you want to remember what you have studied 1 week later, you have to sleep well. And this, unfortunately, is most children do not get their adequate complement of sleep. And so examinations, they get very stressed because the brain has not rested. They are continuing to study without any other physical activity and rest to the brain. And the most important, why play is important, is what we call soft skills. By especially playing team games,
yes,
you become a team player. You learn to become a team player. You learn to handle disappointment. You learn to handle victory. You learn to be disciplined. You learn patience. You learn to communicate your ideas. You learn it in the battlefield of play. And this is what is important for children to, ಮುಂದೆ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದಲ್ಲ ಬೇಕು.
Correct.
You need to handle situations by having all these soft skills. And unfortunately, these children are coming out.
Probably that's why, we didn't have any such schools that we went to learn soft skills. ಈಗ ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತಲೇ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟ್ಸ್, ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ನಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ರೋಡಲ್ಲೇನೆ 10 ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಜೊತೆ ಆಟ ಆಡಿದ್ರೆ ವಿ ನ್ಯೂ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೋ ಜಗಳಗಳು ಆಗೋದು, ಯಾರೋ ಒಬ್ರು ಹೇಳೋರು, ಮುಖದ ಮೇಲೇ ಬೈಯೋರು. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಬಂದು ಮತ್ತೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಡೇ ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆನೇ ಆಟಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗೋ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಮನಶಕ್ತಿ ಇತ್ತು.
Very true. So what you get free, paying and learning, and that too not all that well.
Thank you, doctor. Thanks for this tip. And also, screen time kuda tumba ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಲ್ಲ, because they don't get to play outside, so they end up looking at the screen so much, and it might be having its own share of, the negative impact on the brain or their overall development, personality development also. ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದಿದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ?
See, this one thing we have to accept that
ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಸಣ್ಣ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಂದ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನಿಂದ ಶುರು ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅದು. ಅಂದರೆ as early as probably 6 months or even earlier than that to, I think, ಅದು ಇನ್ಫಿನಿಟಿನೇ ಅನ್ಬೋದು till they are alive probably. That screen time is only increasing.
See, we have to accept the reality that screens are going to be a part of our children's lives. There's no escaping it. It is up to us to set the boundaries and make them follow those rules. So various countries have various guidelines. The Indian Academy of Pediatrics has recently set some guidelines. So what we recommend, children from 0 to 2 years, the number of hours they will spend in front of a screen is 0.
Oh.
No, absolutely no screen time. And screen time in this age usually starts by showing them screens to make them eat, which should never be done. So screen time up to 2 years is 0. From 2 to 5 years, it is 1 hour a day max, preferably less. That too in 2 bits of half hour each, and only educational material supervised by parents.
2 to 5?
2 to 5 years. 5 to 10 years, 2 hours per day, of which a little bit can be recreational. Most of it is educational, again supervised by parents. And this everything is as less as possible. 2 hours and 2 hours le ತೋರಿಸ್ಬೇಕಂತಿಲ್ಲ. They can manage with less, it is even better. Coming to the age group between 10 and 18, these children are now pre-teens and adolescents, so they're a little more difficult to handle, so you need to handle them in a different way. So what we say is, make a pact with the child. You're going to make sure you get 1 hour of exercise, at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep. You're going to make sure that your homework is done. You're going to have adequate time for physical contact with your peers, communication, not on messaging apps. You're going to have adequate family time, and you're going to have adequate time for meals. Ivella madre, then you can have your screens. And if you do actually do all this, there won't be much time. There won't be much time for screens. But then this is the way you have to put it across to teens, because that's a very rebellious age. ನೀವೇನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ ಅದು ಉಲ್ಟಾ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು.
ಸ್ಕೂಲಲ್ಲೇ ಇವಾಗ ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಆಲ್, ದೇ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ದೆಮ್ ಟು ಡೂ ಇಟ್ ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ, ಆರ್ which will need assistance from the computers. So at the time, probably it's a very difficult age to also tell them not to be on it, because they have to submit their assignments also, alva. I think it's a very tricky way to handle at this age, alla.
Yes, because they will rebel.
They will rebel, and also they say it's a necessary thing for me to do on the computer because I need to use the screen to be able to submit my assignments, and that's the time when they are introduced to computers and then asked to do things on it and then submit it online. And I think it's little,
like I said, there's no escaping it, so we have to find ways to make sure that certain rules are followed.
And if we have to really talk about the parents, I think not just the parents, I think the whole world is now into social media and then getting all kinds of, information loaded onto many websites, and then which can lead to some kind of misinformation also. So parenting andrenene ivaga more than, going to the pediatrician, I think, it's going to the Google and then finding out, something, ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಕೀವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ತಲೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದು, ಇಫ್ ದ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ ಕಮ್ಸ್ ಟು ಯು ವಿತ್ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಲೋಡೆಡ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಅವೈಲೇಬಲ್ ಇನ್ ದ ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟ್, ವಿಚ್ ಕುಡ್ ಬಿ maybe wrong or a misinformation, how do you deal with such parents who already do their own diagnosis and then come to you?
Yeah, as doctors, I think that's a new reality which we have to accept. That parents are going to do their research and come, and in some ways it's okay. It's not too bad in the sense that it saves us some explaining to do, but by and large, the parents end up more confused than enlightened, Because Google ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತು ಇರೋ ಬರೋ ಕಾಯಿಲೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡ್ತದೆ, and so they come with so much stress and
Yeah, that's exactly what I was asking you is, ಅದು ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಹೆದರ್ಸತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ದ್ಯಾನ್ it gives you some kind of consolation. So, and most often it can be a misinformation also, and it does more harm than it does good. ಅಲ್ಲ ಅವಾಗ such parentsಗೆ, I mean, if you have to really tell them,
So if you have to search, go to authentic sites. There are so many sites, like our Indian Academy of Pediatrics has their own website. It's called the iapindia.org.
Oh,
Go there. Every small problem, we have a separate section for parents.
oh,
So parents can go there. There's authentic information on everything, on small common diseases, vaccinations, etc. Many of the big hospitals have, like Mayo Clinic has its own website. And there are websites designed for specific illnesses. For asthma, we have what is called GINA, Global Initiative for Asthma. Then there's, for immunization, there's one called immunize.com, etc. Go to authentic websites
oh,
where you can get
Good.
good information, which is, you can verify. Sumne Google, anybody can write a
Fair
Wikipedia,
enough, yeah.
anybody can give any kind of information. So you have to be careful about what you take from that. But yes, it is quite confusing. Parents come sometimes with big, thick wads of paper and their own diagnosis. They've already done investigations also. Child one more sali poke ಮಾಡಿ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ.
True.
Because now people come home and do the tests, so they don't want to come twice to the clinic, so they come with one thick comprehensive test, ಇರೋಬರೋ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು
Oh
ತೊಗೊಂಬರ್ತಾರೆ.
my God, this is so dangerous, honestly.
Yeah, but that's the reality. That's what's happening.
So, finally, to come to the end of the session, if we have to talk about the role of a grandparent in the family. I mean, we had that bonus and luck and fortune to grow up with our grandparents. And some of us, I think, have had even that privilege of growing up in a joint family system, which I felt, had its own charm. And then, ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ಪಾಪ ಈಗ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲೀಸ್ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ನಾಟ್ ಅವೈಲೇಬಲ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಹೋಮ್ಸ್. ಬಟ್ ಇಫ್ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಒನ್, ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಥಿಂಕ್ is the role of a grandparent?
I cannot stress the advantage that a child will have if there are grandparents in the house. They are assured of companionship. They are assured of unendless love. They are assured of somebody being home when they come back from school. They are assured of somebody to go to if they have any problems, etc. So grandparents will play an invaluable part in the life of a child. I am now old enough to be a grandparent, even though I am not one, so I know exactly how the mind works. But we have to be a little careful. These children are growing up in a world which is different from what even our children were growing up. The grandchildren are growing up in a world which we have absolutely no expertise of, and so whatever rules were applicable say 30 years ago may not be applicable today. And also we have to be grandparents have to be a little careful not to overindulge the child, so that parents disciplining the child, we should encourage, not discourage. The same message should go from everyone. Mamma, papa no antare, ajja yes andre adak bele illa, especially if it's detrimental to the child. And things like bribing them with chocolates, bribing them, it's not healthy for the child, because the child doesn't value it and they don't get the right message. So it's quite tempting when the child says ajja ondidu kodu. So once in a while it's okay, but not regularly.
Not regularly.
And please try and not go against what the parents wish, because the parents may have some idea about how they want their child to do. Have healthy discussions with them. If you feel they are absolutely wrong, try and explain to them why. But then try not to impose your method, which may be outdated in today's world, in the rearing of the grandchild. So that is something which I think all grandparents should keep in mind, so that there's harmonious atmosphere in the house and the same message goes to the child.
Uniform code of conduct.
Yes, very true, because this is what the child needs. Otherwise you're only confusing the child.
Yeah. I was thinking probably you will say it the other way around, Antam. It's so important, at least, when there is somebody, reprimanding the child, there is somebody, to
Absolutely
pamper
not.
the child. Anta,
Absolutely not, because the child gets conflicting message.
Correct.
Especially if he's in the wrong and somebody says this is right. Then what
Pamper.
message are you giving the child? So it has to be consistently told that this is not right, so that the child learns from that experience. So
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. And I'm sure, a lot of people who are first time parents, especially, and the kids growing up, will find this conversation absolutely valuable and a lot of takeaways. And thanks for your time and patience, and also giving us an elaborate explanation about all those things that I had as doubts on behalf of many of those parents out there.
I hope it benefits
Yes, it will.
them. I'm so glad I came here. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Doctor.